Hi there, my name's Don Juan. Camille has been out for a while now, and the consensus is pretty clear. She's pretty broken. Across all ranks as of last week, she has around a 75% ban rate. And it's very understandable why. Her Q allows her to do true damage, her W heals her for an insane amount during the laning phase, her hookshot gives her ridiculous mobility, and of course, that ult. How do you deal with Camille? I'm going to talk about her laning phase, I'm going to talk about what makes her good, I'm going to talk about what specific abilities you should be looking out for, and I'm also going to talk about what to do when she gets fed. But first, what is Camille? What can we compare Camille to? Camille is a great big hoe. She is the biggest whore in League of Legends. But she's not just any kind of hoe. No. She's not your regular hoe. She is an aggressive hoe. How aggressive of a hoe is Camille? You know how there's those people that wipe your windshield on your car, but you don't ask them to, and then they ask you for money? That's the kind of hoe Camille is. She fucks you without your consent and then takes money from you. Camille uses her hooker powers to go from lane to lane, fucking different champions by jumping on their dick and spreading her legs open all over them. How do you deal with a hoe like Camille? You gotta catch her in the act. You have to get this hoe caught out and arrested. As a general rule of thumb, I am not against prostitutes, but I am against dirty prostitutes. And Camille is the dirtiest hoe in the game. I mean, balance-wise, she's pretty disgusting. A Camille's legs are made of sharp knives, a hooker's legs are made of syphilis, both dangerous in different ways. Now, what does that mean, catch Camille out? This hoe has so much mobility, it feels really difficult to pin her down. Let us first talk about the early game. The early game is something that a lot of players struggle with on Camille. The ability that most Camilles get first is their W. Her W is AoE, it heals a lot, it deals a fair amount of damage, and it helps push the lane. But her W is also on a very long cooldown, and it is dodgeable. Most people dodge this ability wrong. Most people run backwards when trying to dodge Camille's W. If you run backwards, it's almost guaranteed that she's going to hit you with this. You have to run forward and diagonally towards the edge of the line. Against an aggressive hoe like Camille, you can't back off and play passive. You have to fight aggression with aggression. You can't be a pussy. Pussies get fucked. Here's a very important note about Camille. Camille's level 2 is one of the strongest in the game, only if she hits it first. However, if she does not hit level 2 first, her level 2 is not that great. Here's what I mean by that. Let's take a look at Jin-Air Sohwan. He is a challenger top laner in Korea, and he is one of the best Camilles in the game. In this matchup against Fiora, Fiora decides not to contest the early minion wave and allows Camille to push in on her. Sohwan pushes the wave, and when he hits level 2, Fiora wastes her Q, and Sohwan immediately goes on her. The mobility from hookshot in the early game pretty much guarantees an engage. With her passive shield and her W, it's pretty much guaranteed that she's not going to lose this trade. However, let's take a look at this from the other side. Here we watch Sohwan actually playing Fiora against Camille, but he does not play scared. He contests the minion wave and makes sure that he hits level 2 at the same time as Camille. This time around, because Camille's E is blocked, Fiora can freely start hitting Camille, and eventually, it's the exact same situation except in the opposite way. Now let's talk about Camille's Q. Camille's Q is fairly simple. It's a straight up auto attack reset that doesn't really cost too much mana. After using Q the first time, if she waits 1.5 seconds, the next 1.5 seconds, she's allowed to recast for true damage spike. So basically, if you have a champion with some type of mobility, some type of crowd control, if you use that in the 1.5 second window Camille has for her true damage, she won't get the true damage off. It will simply go on cooldown and she'll have to wait 6 more seconds before it's back up. But the real problem with Camille is not her Q, it's not her W, it's her ultimate and her mobility. Let's take a quick look at Hookshot, Camille's signature ability. Hookshot makes her a hooker, and it's her best ability. It gives her crowd control, mobility, and an attack speed steroid. But there are certain weaknesses with her hookshot. Number 1, if she does not hit her hookshot, she loses out on a lot of her potential. Hookshot's attack speed steroid is very noticeable, and if she does not get it, she's going to have a very hard time finishing her combo. Think about what happens when Camille is able to hit a hookshot. If she hits hookshot on you, she is able to get a stun, which means she is allowed to get her passive shield up by auto-attacking you. She's then allowed to use her Q, and then she's allowed to also move back a little bit and almost guarantee to hit her W, which will then slow you and guarantee the second part of her Q. So Camile's hookshot is very good, but if you dodge it, she becomes very vulnerable. Generally, she's just going to be looking to go where you were just now. If you have a gap closer, you can use it to move to the side and dodge it that way. Camille is not untargetable during any period of her hookshot, which means if you crowd control her during any point of her hookshot gets cancelled. Hookshot's second part, the part where she begins dashing to someone, can also be body blocked. Most of the time, hoes usually go for the AD carry. The AD carry usually has the most money, they're also the most vulnerable. You have to protect your friend from the hoe. If you are a tanky champion, you should be body blocking for your teammates who are vulnerable to hoes. A lot of junglers don't really like ganking a Camille because she's got so much mobility, but all of her mobility is essentially stacked onto their hookshot. If she does not have hookshot up, she becomes a very easy gank target. However, you do have to remember that her E has two parts to it. She does not always have to go forward, she can go forward and backward to bait something out from you. Finally, let's talk about her ultimate. Her ultimate is her main source of frustration. Against high mobility champions who really like to roam, your general idea is you want to shove in the wave. If you shove in the wave, they will be punished for roaming because they're missing minions to their tower. Unfortunately, with Camille, a lot of times you can't even do that. Ganking for Camille is every single jungler's dream. Here's what you do against Camille once she hits the level 6. Before even walking into lane, you have to make sure that your stuff is warded. You have to ward very, very deep, because Camille can gank you from half the lane. Your ward needs to be in a position so that you know when the jungler is about to arrive in your lane at the same time as the Camille. Because Camille can start the gank from half a lane away. You want a very even minion wave. So if Camille roams, you can push up the minion wave and punish her, but you don't want to get pushed in, otherwise she's just gonna roam for free. If you have the lane advantage and you are looking to dive her with your jungler, remember that Camille's ult makes her untargetable and her ult will not disappear even if you kill Camille. So one of you has to be ready to take 4 seconds worth of tower aggro. Now here's some ways that you can completely neutralize Camille's ult. Any type of invulnerability. Zed ult, Zhonya's, Fiora W, Tahm Kench Devour, any type of invulnerability if cast on the champion that Camille is targeting while she's in the air, it won't activate, nothing will happen, and her ult will just go on cooldown. But the best way to get a hoe off your dick is to push back. If Camille jumps on you, you can push her out of her ult will dissipate and into your team. And this brings me to my last point. What do you do against a Camille who's really fed? Unfortunately, with the way that Camille's kit works, when she does get very fed, it's very, very easy to snowball on her. She can run around the map and just cause havoc in all the lanes. But Camille players share a similar trait to Rengar players, and that is they go too deep too often. A lot of people like to say things like, oh, Camille is basically an assassin. No, she's not. Camille is a high mobility bruiser. Assassins generally go in, pop someone, and then get out with something else. Camille does not have any escapes whatsoever. Her ultimate is not that long range. Her hookshot has a fairly high cooldown. A lot of times Camille players will dive too far deep because they just have so much mobility that they don't realize, oh wait, I'm the only hooker here. No one else can follow up on my skanky ass. And what happens? She goes too far deep and she dies. All you have to do when Camille goes in on someone is collectively all focus her. Camille is not that tanky. A champion that does not build a tank item until their 3rd item is not a very tanky champion. She has a great passive, decent stats, and a good W heal. But once you get past that, she is not actually that tanky. Camille players are very easy to bait in. Whether they are bronze, or rank 1, or quas, it does not matter. Camille players are all thirsty, horny whores, and they wanna fuck you. That's how you deal with Camille.